Liked by the sound of violence.
Oh, my calendar keeps reminding me that normally we would be watching the Vivisection right now.
Yeah. We'd be talking about actual interesting fights. Possibly now happening sometime in May. Because on the economic recovery team for America.
Yeah. And he's just going to be, they're just making up like, oh, look at this card that's definitely going to happen in early May. Doesn't it look good? All these hypothetical matchups that we've just made up on the spot, like any idiot on the internet could do. It's like, oh yeah, I guess that would look good if it existed. Look, Ghidorah versus Mothra. Aren't you excited? Like,
What up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. This is episode 155, and we are recording this on April 18th, 2020. I am Pulver, and I'm back again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
What up? Can you see me okay in the light?
I can. I'm currently trying to figure out how to pour a growler. 64-ounce growlers are hard to pour from.
They are. I just based it's because you can try to get that angle if you can.
Especially it's like the glass jug ones are the roughest.
So, what I do is I just kind of bounce it against the edge of a countertop if you can, and just kind of go like that.
See,
but if you can't,
normally what I do as well, except I have a microphone on this countertop. So
basically, you just got to straight shot it in there. A little bit too much head won't hurt you, you know.
Yeah, it turned out all right.
Too much head, right?
Speaking of heads, I should mention, if you guys are watching video this week, you can see I'm bald as shit. I got bored, and so I was gonna have girlfriend Karen shave a mohawk into my head. Crucial mistake: don't get girlfriend Karen high as shit before letting her try and shave a mohawk. It's not gonna work out well for you. Especially don't let her have some of the THC syrup. What is it? Hidden Trees, I think is the name of it. It's the Sonny Bono brand, evidently. But it fucks you up. And so she can't shave straight, and I got even more bored and just decided to buzz my whole shit, as I'm sure a lot of people are doing right now. So
I can you can see I got a fucking mess of hair. You've seen me with my nice fancy haircut in the past. Nope.
That's right. You look like you're about to start a band that bangs on buckets.
Yeah,
have you learned the banjo yet, I guess is my question.
No, but it's a band banging on buckets or trash cans. I'd probably call them the Houston something, or maybe I'd call them the Trastros, like the Houston Astros cheating scandal. The extra hipster.
That
would be called the Trastros.
Right?
Yeah, and they'd be like, some shitty lyrics like "looking at you through my camera,"
Meanwhile, you have like a dude blowing on a jug in the background.
Yeah, and then you go, "Oh, wait, stop. The levels aren't right." And you just interrupt the entire fucking set like a piece of shit.
There's like a lot of weird Civil War themed stuff for no explicable reason that you're curious whether it's racist or just Civil War themed.
It's ambiguously racist, you have some old guy that you met somewhere with like a really long epic Civil War beard, like you said, playing a flute, or actually no, he'd be the banjo guy.
Yeah, some nights you gotta make songs like that, right, Chris?
Yeah. So shout out, by the way, to my neighbors and their dog. It's now quiet, but if you do hear some barking, it's because they don't know how to take care of a pit bull. So, yeah.
To be fair, pit bulls are wildin'. I had a pit bull boxer mix that was maybe the most excitable dog on the planet. It was a sweetheart, but holy shit was that thing excited about everything all the time. Anyway, I guess we should get into the part of the podcast that's my favorite, where we don't talk about MMA podcasts, and we just talk about beer. So, Chris, what are you drinking on this week? I should say, what is our Papa Vodka Presents, Doug Stanhope Presents, our sponsor this week?
So, this is absolutely, I don't think they'll call it a hazy IPA. I think, it is when you look at it.
I wonder who this is from.
Modern Times.
Oh, they might call it, here, what is it? Because they
Orderville.
have some hazies.
Orderville. Double.
I don't think Orderville is technically a hazy.
It's not. It just looks hazy. It's actually just a double dry hopped IPA for the most part. Well, actually, it says here in the description is a hazy IPA.
There we go.
Okay.
I was
that blends the fruit forward character, Mosaic, and Sultana hops with resinous. So, all the hops that are in here: Mosaic, Simcoe, Yukonot, Sultana, Eureka, and Nugget. What's up?
I said Yukonot.
Or Equinaut, not Yukonot.
No, you're right. So you actually said it the right way. There's actually
really?
Shouts out to Four Brewers. They actually have a great.
I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, actually, I can read that great.
So,
you know what's funny is I actually did not think that was.
I should not do this over my laptop, but
that's like I should say it's like more of a West Coast hazy. Like, it's very dank for a hazy. Like, it's not a juice bomb by any means. It's not even that hazy, also.
No, and that's this is probably my favorite beer. One of my favorite beers that they do. It's been a while.
That and Black House. That Black House stout from them is fantastic. Because they make
always good. I remember during Oktoberfest, they had a really good fest beer. I think they made it with with pretzels and something else, but it turned out really nice.
Yeah, no, it was nice, and it was the right amount of light and malty, which is hard to nail down without getting too sweet.
Yeah, man.
So I am drinking almost the polar opposite of the beer you're drinking. I am drinking Old Chub from...
great beer.
Yeah, from Oscar Blues. And I am drinking it, you guys might have noticed, out of a Monkey Paw growler. You would think, why are you drinking out of a Monkey Paw growler? Did you go to Monkey Paw? Nope. I actually got that growler and the beer from... shouts out to our guys at Balboa Tap House in Claremont, who, are kind of an unofficial sponsor of this podcast, considering how much beer we've bought from them
Shouts
over
out
the
to
years.
Ronnie and Ricky. Those are the brothers. I can't remember their other brothers' names. And then Steve, who works there.
Yep, and they all... that family also owns Par Liquor and Jimbo's in Claremont, I believe.
And then their nephew that works there, Ryan, cool kid.
Yeah, everybody's super sweet. They've hooked us up, both of us, a ton over the years. Also, we actually happened to meet Danny Downs, co-main event podcast favorite, who is there for, I think, Boulevard, because they were doing something. Because I think he works for the Boulevard distributor. I'm not sure if it was technically for Boulevard. It might have been for a different brand under Boulevard's distribution label, but... all those guys are awesome. Go support them if you're in San Diego. Although that's probably a pretty limited audience. But if you're in San Diego, go support them because they're sweethearts. And also, I got 64 ounces of beer for $15 of Old Chub. And all the beers are $15, including some big ass stouts and stuff. So, and double IPAs and super strong beers. So also they have just cans to go and food to go and all kinds of stuff. So big shouts to those guys. I was happy to go support them. And I haven't had Old Chum in a while. It's really good, dude.
Very good Scotch ale.
Yeah, and it's of the Scotch ale variety that I really like, where it's on the malty side, but it's not just sweet as fuck. Because sometimes Scotch ales get real sweet and clawing. Whereas this one is it's just hoppy enough that it's kind of the older style of Scotch ale. It's almost towards a barley wine, but without so much sweetness, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a very accurate way to describe most Scotch ales generally. The sweeter side for sure. Little sharpness at the end. Malt forward, I guess.
Malt forward, but this one specifically has a little bit less of that cloying sweetness and a little bit more of the hoppy backbone.
Not you guys. Sorry. fucking dog, dude. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Couldn't even hear it. So
okay, thank God.
We were all confused about what you were sighing about. I thought you were sighing about my description of hop backbone or of malt backbones, which, to be fair, maybe one of the most divisive phrases in brewing is the phrase malt backbone. People don't like it.
Yeah, I remember I described the beer to someone. They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. The back of your palate, the back of your mouthfeel." I'm like, right. "What's the last?" I was like, "I would say, what's the last thing you taste when you're?" I don't want to say when you're swallowing, because I don't want to be. I don't want to come across as suggestive. Yeah,
we're doing a Howard Stern show
swallow
now.
It down.
You want to sit on Simeon?
Yeah, then you go into fucking become what is this, Howard Stern show, right?
Or any morning zoo show. Careful, Bob Saget will slip into our DMs and yell at us if we keep talking about this stuff. Oh, I never actually told that story. Anyway, let's just move on.
Then Bob Saget will say you used to suck dick for cocaine, right?
I mean, no, he's just gonna be real mad that you hate morning radio in your DMs. Evidently, that's a thing that happened to me one day. I got yelled at by Bob Saget for hating morning radio.
No, you should just like, no, man, I'm a fan of dusk radio.
To be fair, it's better than morning radio. I'm more of a fan of dust radio, back in the 80s.
Yeah, I love War of the Worlds. Shout out to fucking Orson Welles.
Oh, that. Yeah. Yeah, Dust Bowl radio. That's what I meant. Anyway, we are so off the motherfucking rails. So we'll go ahead and get into format. One of the things I did want to bring up of some news topics, not a ton, but there was a couple things. MMA Junkie Radio is going to start doing live shows again. As a matter of fact, I believe they just did their first live show recently. I'm curious to see how it works because they're doing it through Facebook groups, which is the most backwards ass possible way to do that. And you have to I think they're doing it that way because then they can tag people in easily and have callers, but Jesus, it seems rough. So we'll see how that plays out. That's something to keep an eye on. I will be happy when they can take calls again because, my favorite part of that show, if I don't hear Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasó? If I don't hear Marco from Waco or fucking Showtime from Tennessee when it's his time, you know what I'm saying? Without callers, that show I feel like is definitely it doesn't have the soul that it did with them. So I hope that they do get that kind of ironed out because I miss Showtime and Marco from Waco fucking a lot. Marco from Waco, it's just good shit. And the other big piece of news this week was, did you see Brendan Schaub and Luke Thomas stole the name Coast to Coast this week?
From Coast to Coast Combat?
Oh, weird. You happen to also know of a show that's named the exact same thing. Oh, do you remember the name Java Boys that they used to call this show?
Please don't remind me.
Well, they renamed it Coast to Coast, which I get that a lot of people use the phrase Coast to Coast. It's, everybody from fucking Art Bell on, right?
So let me guess. Someone's going to say, hey, man, it's already taken. And then Brendan Schaub's looking like this. Oh, dude, you remember that one show? It was on, what was it, Adult Swim? Space Ghost. Let's just call us that.
To be fair, that would require Brendan Schaub having recollections, which I'm not.
Yeah, he did play a lot of football, and he also got punched in the face, so
and he's into mountain biking now, evidently, which I'm sure is going to turn out well. That motherfucker and his mountain bike posts. It's maybe my least favorite thing on the internet right now, outside of everything Paige Van Zandt does. But yeah, no, they're just using the name Coast to Coast, which is, I get it. I get it. Coast to Coast, Art Bell is, of course, I believe it's Art Bell, right? He used to have the Art Bell, Coast to Coast, the radio host who used to do the, it's Coast to Coast. It was pre-Alex Jones kind of shit, conspiracy theory talk in the middle of Texas and shit like that. I get it, but also, all you need to do is look for, there's just clearly zero research done or zero respect for the people who have made shows in the past. Because literally all you have to do is search the phrase Coast to Coast and the word MMA, and you would come up with more than just Coast to Coast Combat Hour. There's more shows named Coast to Coast that are MMA related. but it just shows the lack of kind of respect that anybody at any of the Showtime things have for anyone in the space. It's kind of frustrating. On the plus side, good God, is the graphics department fantastic for all of those Showtime shows. Like all the graphics work that they do with like every single like color that they use for backgrounds is all textured, so like really makes stuff pop. Their font work is super dope. Like their graphics department is dope as hell, but man, how do you like? It's just so lazy. It's just so lazy, and so. Kind of fuck Showtime and Brendan Schaub and Luke Thomas for that shit, because it's just lazy, and I expect better, especially from Luke Thomas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially from Luke. Damn, he probably just got pressured by Brendan.
I honestly doubt they even looked into any of it. I'm guessing their research department just didn't do any research, and they basically Googled the name Coast to Coast, and were like, meh. Nothing is technically spelled the exact same way. That other show has a 2 instead of T-O, so really, it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, I'm just not happy about it. I think it's lazy, and I think that they can do better. So.
Yeah.
Besides, they already had a name for the show. They picked a bad name. It was Java Boys. That was the name they picked for that show. They then decided, oh, well, hey, now that we're not doing it in person, we're on different coasts. Let's call it Coast to Coast. Because Brendan Schaub watched Adult Swim one time in the 90s.
They should have just at least called it Best Coast. I don't know.
I can't wait for his show Fighter-Apocalypse to come in the near future.
Thank you for that.
I can't wait for his show Phone Movies to come here shortly. Actually, wait, no. That would require them changing the names. So I guess he's just going to have a show called Metalocalypse in the future and Home Movies in the future. I can't wait for his Fisheye Lens episode. There's a deep Home Movies cut that I really enjoy. Anyway, so now that I've ranted about how I'm an angry old man with an angry old man haircut now, Chris, why don't we get into format and actually talk about the MMA podcast that we listened to this week? Why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch?
So I will start with, I have 2 catches. First one is the A-side live chat.
Super good.
With Jared Cannonier, real good. Shit. I like how they start off with saying.
I actually didn't hear the Cannonier episode. I heard the Molly Meatball McCann episode, which was also super good.
Fuck. Anyways, they start off with saying, great nicknames for Jared. What do you think of these? And these are from like your submitted stuff or fan mail, or I guess whatever you call it.
Before you even bring them up, how many crystal puns are there?
Captain Crystal.
Yep.
Crystal King.
Yep.
And then my favorite, the Prime Minister of Pyrite.
Oh shit, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's kind of the best.
Yeah.
Also, I can't believe fighters are. It's nice to see fighters have caught up to the 1960s where everybody's super into crystals now.
And I can't remember what the fuck someone else called it. Something Mauler. I know it's not this one, but I was thinking, what about the Mineral Mauler?
Not terrible. Not terrible.
Yeah, anyways,
the Tiger's Eye Tyrant.
That works. The Tiger's Eye Thrasher something. I don't know.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that doesn't work. No. Anyways, he's still recovering from having pectoral surgery on his left pec. I didn't watch the video version of it. I did the audio from Spotify. So he's feeling great. He's enjoying this time. He's been spending more time now with his family. He's been enjoying it. He says he's really been enjoying the new Final Fantasy VII remake that came out.
I've been hearing good shit. Like, it's weird how much they stretch that game out.
I'll admit, dude, I've never played a Final Fantasy game ever.
What?
Yeah.
So I should admit,
it's all turn-based, right?
It is 100% all turn-based.
Yeah,
except this one is not, from what I understand. This one is actually kind of closer to Kingdom Hearts combat. See,
I was gonna say the only Final Fantasy I'm familiar with is when I played Kingdom Hearts as a kid.
God damn it, that's the worst Final.
And
Fantasy.
that's ironic.
It's like all the worst Keyblade shit and none of the cool Final Fantasy things.
Yeah.
I will say Final Fantasy IX. I will stab a motherfucker over, but I also played a lot of Final Fantasy X, and that shit is maybe one of the worst games on the planet. I don't care what you have to say about that fucking water polo game in that motherfucker, but it's bad. That whole game is bad. Titus and his dumb fucking friend with their weird clothes. It's a bad game.
I'll take your word for it.
Just don't play it is my advice, because it's the most frustrating shit. I wish I could remember the name of that stupid water polo game. There's literally a giant portion of the story revolves around this stupid fucking Waterworld water polo game.
That sounds lame as shit.
It's really bad.
So everything they talked about today. Hey, so how do you get like your? What do you draw out of like minerals and crystals and just earth minerals in general? And he says for him, his mindset is, he's like, let me just kind of clarify this. He's like, not my success doesn't derive from my belief, necessarily that these crystals are just giving me these abilities. He's like, I believe what I can do is based on my confidence in myself and my mind, when he was getting into like metaphysics and shit like that. He's like, but he does believe that like the crystals basically act as kind of like, how would I call it?
Like a conduit?
Not like yeah, thank you. Like a conduit to kind of help him achieve his goals in a sense. He believes that they have those properties. And, I'm not going to take anything away. I think the way and he was saying it, you could attribute to someone who's a religious man, right? And they say they get their inspiration from a higher being. So
it's very much the same thing generally with with people who believe in that stuff, where it's like, I mean, there's a decent argument that it's been proven that even the placebo effect, even if it's a placebo effect, it still works. Like, even if they tell you, hey, this pill is sugar, it's a placebo, it technically still does whatever fake thing they tell you it's going to do. Like, there's a thing where you trick your own mind into it. So I think
people, it's crazy what your mind can do. You can trick yourself into believing something that is like objectively a lie, which is insane.
Arguably, a big portion of the country is currently doing that.
Well, but generally,
including the entire state of Florida, which reopened yesterday.
So, more on a, I guess, let me put it into the
simplified. Indeed.
Someone could convince themselves that they could fucking fly. Like, they can't, but someone could truly believe that. I don't know. That's probably that's kind of probably an extreme example.
That's how you fall out of a window. But
yeah.
Because I believe it was Mitch Hedberg that first... I want to say it was Mitch Hedberg. It might have been Bill Hicks. Some great comedian asked, how come everybody who thinks they can fly don't start trying to take off from the ground and instead they go to a window?
Touche.
That's a very good amazing point. That's a very good point.
Yeah. I didn't really write too many notes because I was just enamored listening to it. I really like his mentality. He says he only cares about blood and love. He's like, basically, it's just all about him and his family. Wow. And people he trusts within his inner circle, his trainers, his training partners. He gave a lot of credit to Alex Caceres as another person he loves talking to because he's also a big believer in kind of metaphysics and
so much
and crystals.
You telling me Bruce Leroy is into crystals and metaphysics? No,
yeah, look, I got some fucking tiger's eye right here. So
do you really?
Yeah. Yes. I'll just say this: I'm not like
wealth
on
and prosperity coming your way. If Pete and Brian Kelleher have taught me anything.
I mean, I just got some wealth in my bank account today, so
that's true.
It works.
Hey, shouts out to Jose Youngs and the A-Side crew for hooking it up. Evidently.
Yeah, no, I'm not like a big believer in like the crystal stuff. My mom is, and I remember she was like, "Hey, can you like drive me to like one of those shops in Old Town?" I'm like, "Yeah," and you know what? Some of the stuff is pretty interesting.
Everyone's hippie mom is into that stuff for sure.
What's
like,
up?
My hippie mom is into that shit as well. I feel like everyone who had a hippie mom 100% loves crystals. If I know anything about hippie moms, they love crystals and they love gay churches that are very inclusive.
So I had to turn up my volume because Trevor was singing the Pokemon theme song in the background.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes
but it's always appropriate, especially during stay-at-home mandate. Dude, I've been playing Pokemon. I fucking told everyone I was. So, I mean, dude, that's what emulators are for. I mean, buying games, right? Wink, wink.
No, we literally linked the emulator you referenced last week in our episode. So I don't have a problem with emulators.
You know what? We're actually doing
emulators are not illegal.
No, they're not. We're literally doing people a favor. Like someone right now that has their MacBook, they're like, oh, I'm bored. I'm bored of playing Call of Duty Warzone on my PlayStation or something. That's why I download emulator.
Well, and pro tip, anybody out there, just go to archive.org. A lot of arcade games and NES games not only are located in archive.org and archived, but they also have included an emulator in the browser, so you can just play it from a browser. Like a whole lot of games. So if you're at all trying to do that, that's archive.org.
On the browser?
It probably depends on the game and the emulator. But I mean, a lot of those games didn't have save features either, so depending on what era.
Yeah, that's my pro tip for this whole stay-at-home mandate COVID-19. If you don't want to actually be productive and play guitar, you want to sit in your ass.
I like how Chris is like, oh, obviously if you're being productive, it means you're playing guitar.
Yeah, I know. I'm just shit talking myself.
No,
because I was playing guitar about a week ago. And I'm like, I think I'm good.
Dude, I honestly thought about buying some Ernie balls and restringing my acoustic this week. Yeah, for real.
But no, I need to actually do that this weekend. At least get back into that. Maybe if I think the sun's out right now. God damn, man.
Not over here, it's cloudy as shit.
But yeah. Anyways, get back to what Jared was talking about. He said, okay, so what's your next fight? What's the next option? Title eliminator or title shot? I agree.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
They said, okay, they're like, are you afraid of like Yoel? Is he the boogeyman? And he's like, nah, I don't give a fuck who I fight. Like, I'll just, he's like, either I knock this dude out and finish him or I get finished. They just like kill or be killed mentality. And I mean, I think you can see it in his eyes. Look at the Anderson fight. That's what kind of woke me up to Cannonier's current mentality. Damn near kicked the dude's fucking leg off, stopped him via TKO, and gets all of Brazil booing his ass off. And he's just like, really?
Yeah. Well, I love that everybody was like, oh no, it's Anderson's leg. You're like, none of you motherfuckers remember it was the opposite leg in the Weidman fight, do you?
Yeah, and didn't he finish him on an inside kick that was like to his knee?
Yeah, it was not at all. Like, plus, I've had the same surgery that Anderson had. He has a titanium rod through the middle of his bone on that leg. It's not going to break. Like, even if it does break, it's not going to fucking bend and, like, it's actually way more stable. Especially since where the break was all calcifies and actually gets stronger. So, shouts out to Trevor in the background. I can definitely hear that drunk motherfucker. But that's hilarious. But yeah, man, that's interesting. I'm curious. See, I've been really high on Jared since he switched weight classes. When he dropped down, right?
Dad, dude.
He went down to 185 from 205.
Yeah, he started a heavyweight.
That's right.
He was at weight about 245. This is about, I think as soon as 3 or 4 years ago. Then he was fighting at light heavyweight, and then he moved down to middleweight. I think about a year or almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's been looking great since he moved out.
Dude, he basically has like light heavyweight power.
He's super fast too. Like even for middleweight, he's got fast hands. So I'm excited to see what that dude does going forward.
Yeah, I know the last time he was finished was by Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, which, I mean, in retrospect, looked really good.
So that was a great one. Very interesting, man.
Yeah, and actually that segues well into one of my catches for this week, since I have a couple, which is the A-Side Live Chat for April 6th or 15th, 2020, which was on Wednesday. This is the one with Pete and Molly McCann. And it's a lot about just dealing with quarantine, and Molly McCann is just on fire this whole episode. Not like saying, not even like being wild or talking shit about anybody, but she just keeps like subtly dropping amazing stories over and over again. And you can hear Pete and Jose slowly lose it throughout the episode as she starts saying crazier stories. First off, she talks about, which I feel like she's talked about in the past, how she got her nickname Meatball because she worked at Subway. She always smelled like meatballs. Like that's how she got the nickname Meatball Molly McCann, because since she worked at Subway and there was just the meatballs all day.
Dude, I just realized Subway already, besides the meatballs, it's that smell. Yeah. Like I can't remember the last time I had a Subway sandwich, but I always remember it doesn't matter how many times you wash your hands. It's just that it just stays in your fucking fingers.
Well, and she actually said during that episode, like, number one, where you cut the bread before you put it in the machine, there's that station. Well, it's right next to where the meatballs are, so she would just be hungover every time she was working, and she would constantly be smelling that, so she hates meatballs. Like, she's like, I can fuck with, like, Swedish meatballs, but anything with a red sauce, it makes me want to immediately be I feel hungover and want to puke. So she talks about how she hates meatballs, which I thought was great. And then she's like, oh, you know what's a crazy story from when I worked at Subway? I one time got in a fight with a sex trafficker while I was working. She tells a story about how she I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, she literally got in a fist fight with by the way, a sex trafficker that threw a head kick. I don't know where this motherfucker is from, but Jesus Christ. But yeah, he threw a head kick at Molly McCann, and evidently she was fucking him up in the police game.
That is very interesting. Story. I don't know how else to react to that. Wow.
Yeah, it's really worth listening to. And then after that, she says that she's been playing some UFC 3 lately against fans. And they're like, oh, have you been doing good? She's like, I haven't won one fucking game yet. They all just fuck me up. It makes me so angry. So, it's just a really good all-around episode. It's a lot of fun. It's not like... There's not a lot of, if you guys are out there and you're trying to find content that's not super, kind of a bummer and quarantine-related, this is a great example where they talk a little bit about it, and then the rest of the episode is just crazy Molly McCann stories that are a lot of fun. And also, she's just super personable and fun to listen to anyway, so... I've always been a big Molly McCann fan, but yeah, great fucking episode this week.
Oh, it's good. It sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Let's see. You said you had another one as well, right?
I had an additional catch. Yeah, it was Heavy Hands. And
you know what? We will actually get that one in a bit, because that is my can't miss.
Okay, then I will...
Because it's really fucking good.
Yeah, let's see. I have one. I could just say one right now. That's just I'll mention. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I can get to some of my catches, and we'll...
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Actually, you actually heard a clip of one of these on the intro, or of this on the intro, I should say, which is the MMA Depressed Us, episode 49. One of the roughest, triplet of fights I've maybe ever watched in a row. Outside of, horrible UFC cards in the middle of, Russia or somewhere. Probably not even Russia. Nebraska. There's some very rough fights. Here, I'll just say the 3 fights. It is, let's see, Brad Tavares versus Aaron Simpson, Volkman versus Castillo, and Mark Coleman versus Stephan Bonner. And holy fuck are these fights brutal to watch. It's so rough that both Phil McKenzie and Conor Rebush are drinking during the episode. And Phil, not even a couple minutes in, realizes, I believe it was at the end of the first fight, he said, number 1, I'm out of beer. Number 2, I clearly should have grabbed way more beer to get through this. And it's just really rough. Let's see. I think it's about a minute or 2 in, Phil says, so I think it's Phil that says this. So we're now watching what I think is the entirety of this fight with Aaron Simpson pushing Tavares against the cage in over-under. And it was just that for fucking 15 minutes. Then after that, it's Volkman versus Castillo, where Volkman is just the most, I believe they described him as an uncharismatic Ben Askren, which I really appreciated. And, yeah, it's just a lot of top control from Volkman doing not a whole lot. And it's really rough. And then they realize that they still have to watch Coleman versus Bonner, and it's a full 27 minutes that they still have to get through. It's really brutal. The whole thing is brutal, but they are very funny throughout it, so I think it's definitely worth checking out. Even bad fights right now, I feel like, are a lot of fun to watch because no one has fights to watch. So I've really been enjoying, especially shows that go through and watch cards and you can watch along with them. That's been my favorite content throughout this. I don't know about you. I know Heavy Hands did a bit of that this week, but you didn't watch along with, right?
No, I did not. I was gonna say I did make a mental note of the fights that they discussed, so I will watch them soon.
Yeah, and it's that's the most those are the shows I've had the most fun with during this. Is shows I can just like put on a card, let it run in the background, and then hear people do a podcast over the top of it. And that is why we have been doing shows similar to that. So I don't know, just been enjoying it. But yeah, it's a lot of man. There's some really dumb shit especially the Mark Coleman Stephan Bonnar fight. Holy fuck, are there some insane decisions made by Stephan Bonnar and Mark Coleman in that fight. It is, boy, there are some things that happened, so definitely worth checking out. And then lastly, the other catch that I have for this week is everything that Trent Rhinesmith is doing with the Come On Now podcast. I believe nowadays you can find Come On Now podcast, CMON space NOW, since I want to make sure it's easy to figure out what I'm talking about. I don't believe there's an apostrophe in the feed title. But it's just really good. He's asking all the questions that people need to be asking. He's actually made me multiple times throughout the last couple weeks. He's definitely a sounding board that I've been listening to, where it's just, or a soundboard, or it's all of those are paraphrases for what I'm trying to say. He's a person who I've been listening to that has done a very good job of asking questions that no one's thought of, or that he's been reaching out to professionals and asking them the questions that I wish more people were asking. He also made a very interesting point, I believe it was this week. Chris, have you noticed which cards the UFC is trying to keep putting on?
I mean, besides the pay-per-views, or...
No, that's the point, is they've only been trying to put on pay-per-views,
that's
right?
Yeah, the first thing I thought, it was like just pay-per-views, right?
Well, and so Trent Rhinesmith, I believe it was this week. I don't think it was last week. It's hard to tell. Time is kind of blending together, especially with me doing some daily shows. But
do you have any idea what today is? What day it is? I'm just curious.
It's Saturday, but I only know that because I thought yesterday was Saturday until this morning.
That's awesome.
I got through all of yesterday, a good point. And my girlfriend was like, I don't know why we didn't go to that one. We didn't get food from that one restaurant because we could have. And I was like, no, it was the weekend and they're only open weekdays. She's like, yesterday was Friday. It's like, shit. And I'm still working fucking 4 to 5 days a week. So
I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I kind of have an idea what day it is. It depends.
Speaking of which, next time you're working, actually maybe sometime this week, we're gonna come by and get a case from you guys.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Definitely.
Just definitely go on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, or you won't see me.
That's what I'm saying. Plus, I need them safe hands delivering the beer.
Yeah, right.
Since I'm as of right now, I haven't gotten the Rona'd, and Anyway. We're just gonna keep on moving on. Where was I? I was talking about. I got way distracted. Oh, right.
I don't even remember now.
Trent Rhinesmith. So Trent Rhinesmith brought up that they're only doing pay-per-views, and I believe it was this week or last week that he brought up the question: Is the reason the UFC and Endeavor going forward with these cards, specifically the pay-per-views, because they're forcing Disney to cancel them so that they still get the paychecks for them? Because as we know, as far as everyone understands, the UFC gets paycheck every time a pay-per-view card happens, regardless of the views.
Yeah.
So if Disney or ESPN cancels those cards, not the UFC, are they then required to pay the UFC that money? Because they're the one that canceled it, not the UFC.
Yeah.
And that is why I think it is absolutely a good idea to be listening to Trent Rhinesmith's podcast. Because have you heard anyone bring that idea up or even kind of pose that question?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't have the answer. No
one does, and we're not going to get an answer probably. But
I would presume the House of Mouse doesn't give a fuck when it doesn't want to give a fuck.
Exactly. But if you are the UFC, or more specifically Endeavor, and you are this much in debt, you want to put as much of that onus on Disney and ESPN as you can, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I am very skeptical about what these pay-per-views are going to look like or how they will actually occur. Vegas seems to be thinking that they're doing okay. I've heard a lot of rumors about Vegas reopening. There's a rumor, I believe it was of either Vital Vegas or I forget the other name of the Vegas site that I follow that's friends with Vital Vegas, but there's rumors going out that they're going to return staff in the middle of May and resume bookings in June for like most hotels, or at least one of the bigger corporations. I want to say like maybe Caesars or somebody like that. Don't quote me on that because I'm not positive, but there is a big hotel chain that is thinking about reopening mid-May to June. And also there's rumors that the governor in Vegas is ready to reopen pretty much immediately once they can get a meeting together, which all kind of is interesting. And it means that these fights could very well happen on May 9th. The fallout from them may be interesting, but I find it fascinating that Trent Ryan-Smith is constantly posing those kinds of questions on his podcast that I have not thought of at all, and I haven't heard anyone else pose. So I think it's I always appreciate voices that are just posing questions that no one else is asking or bringing up ideas that no one else is talking about. So I was a big fan of Fernando Prachas' podcast, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Those are always the best voices to be heard, or
I mean, independent media, right? Like you and I go on and on about this, and you having a journalism degree, you're probably the person to ask. Like the importance of independent media, it kind of solidifies the truth of bigger media outlets, right? By having smaller outlets generating content that is more truthful, it keeps bigger outlets honest.
Well, because there's no one. You're not on someone's leash. There's no one in that bigger medium that's going to be able to kind of necessarily kind of dictate or aggregate a lot of your own stuff that you're putting out. So yeah, if you're independent, it's solely coming out of your mouth.
Well, having those voices that are independent kind of drives bigger media outlets to have to be more honest, right? Because if they don't, they're just clearly contradictory and not a real news.
And the biggest thing about that is, say for example, right? Say it has nothing to do with our podcast. I went out and did some digging, right? And I found a legitimate source. And I, on my own personal account, tweeted, I know where the location of X fight is going to be, and I know this. Some people could say, oh, who the fuck are you? You have like 2 followers, right? It doesn't matter. In journalism, if you have your one source or multiple sources.
2 specifically is what you need, right? You need two separate sources, technically. I guess it depends on where the source comes from, right?
That's really what it is, and it depends if your source can be confirmed by other sources. Right. Like if you have one badass source that's saying something, they got it from someone else too.
Right. Well, or if like Sean Shelby calls you and says, "Hey, we're having a fight at Tachi."
That's yeah.
Then
see, that's
you don't need
depends on your
source. Yeah.
My point is, if I did some digging and I tweeted this out, right, and I said, 100% this is happening. I base it on my source. My source wants to remain. And, anonymous, I'm going to, kind of protect their anonymity.
Chris, counterpoint, I've heard that if you say your source is anonymous, then it's not really a source, you're just making things up as
it's fake news. But my point is, and guess what? Say I got that right.
By the way, if it's a good source, it should be anonymous, because you still want to have that source. That's how sources work.
That's how that works, because once you give away your source, then...
Also, the only reason to out a source is to get them in trouble from an employer, which, by the way, the person who may or may not have said that quote is notoriously good at outing people and firing them when they are found out. So, God, I hate media sometimes. But yeah, anyway, you were saying.
That's just my point. As long as you're just kind of going along those ethical guidelines and you maintain integrity and you still get that news out wherever it is, then and someone could say, oh, then you win. There's no winning anything. It just means that you lose
a lot of times.
Yeah, it just means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's reporting fucking news.
Yep.
I'm not going to be a shill for someone and say, oh, well, I think this should happen and this and that and blah, blah, blah because of that to get some clicks. And yeah, that happens and that's common. And that's not necessarily unethical, depending on how you tread that line. it's always good to get traffic to your own self, right, and build,
Sure.
a digital footprint, right, or brand equity, whatever you want to call it.
But it doesn't actually mean anything to the public. And
it doesn't mean shit to us. What do I want to know if I'm the public? I want to know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I want truths. That's the whole point of reporting and journalism is finding truths, right?
Yeah,
and anything
like
that
I said,
makes you question.
I'll say this again and again. That's what Twitter was initially intended for. It was structured for the news in just quick, rapid succession in bites. What is it?
It's great at it when it works.
Yeah. What is it now? 140 characters, and before it used to be like 100. I don't know.
I think it's 2 something now, and it used to be 140. Can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, no, that's a great point, and yeah, man, it's one of the weirdest things in this sport, like in MMA in general, is that no one, including a lot of media members, seem to understand how reporting and media works. And like, I get that a lot of them don't have degrees in this, but I also don't have a degree in this.
And remember, you don't need a degree to be a journalist.
No, not at all. And you just need a source and a voice, right?
Like you do if you say you're like formally applying somewhere. Yeah, it helps. Like that's what they'll take into account,
Sure.
And I totally understand that. But yeah, you don't need one. You just need to understand how that works.
And it's incredible to me how little of the media outlets in MMA understand how journalism works. What's even more incredible to me is how little of the managers understand how it works. I told you, I don't know if we recorded this. Did Jason House block us last week?
Yeah, I was going to say that Jason House guy. Yeah. You mentioned that.
What
we mentioned last week.
Also, was that last week? So we brought this up on the podcast?
That might have been 2 weeks ago, actually. I can't actually
It would have been last week. I think we did bring this up, but like... Yeah. We definitely did because we talked about it.
Wasn't he the guy who said, "Oh, if you don't have anything good to say with the UFC, don't say it at all," or something like that?
He said, "Why report on the UFC if you don't have anything nice to say?" He's also the one...
Maybe Jason's like, because they need to get paid because they're doing a job.
Well, that he also happens to be the manager of someone who didn't get paid for UFC 249, and he also happens to take 20% instead of the standard 10%, which those two things definitely not related. Because if I know anything about managers in the sport, how about the fact that Malky and his fucking brother work for NFL players? Like, they have a lot of NFL clients.
And I'm gonna look that up, by the way, while you keep talking. I'm curious who their clients are, and I'm also very...
Please do look that up. You could probably start with Chandler Jones, would be my first...
That makes a ton of... And by the way, fantastic football player.
I wouldn't know. I don't football. But what I'm curious about is, I know they don't speak to NFL media that way. They don't do that, right? Like, there's no fucking way they speak to NFL media the way they speak to MMA media, right?
I guarantee you they're way more professional with the NFL media.
I've never even seen them tweet about NFL players except for positive stories. I've never even heard them mention on their NFL or on their Twitters NFL media ever.
Are they first round management?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here it is. I'll let you know.
Because that is something that I think needs to be looked at in this sport. Is there is a whole lot of managers that actually act like adults in other sports.
No fucking way.
Let's hear it.
Oh God.
Malky and Abe Kala.
Okay, they boast on here. Number 1 overall pick in the 2007 NFL draft. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of this guy. The number 1 pick in the 2007 draft was fucking Jamarcus Russell of the Oakland Raiders.
Sure.
The guy killed it with LSU. He's considered the biggest bust of all time, arguably bigger than Ryan Leaf. I know you know who Ryan Leaf is, unfortunately.
Oh, well, I lived in San Diego long enough to know that name.
Let's see, over 50 first-round picks, 100... Okay. Let's see. Okay, wow, they got David Njoku, good tight end for the Cleveland Browns. Darius Leonard, that's unfortunate. Really good linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts. Chandler Jones, you guessed that right. Looks like just them 4 right now.
There's probably more...
Yeah.
That are like probably lesser known, I would assume, because I know they have their hands in a lot of pots with that stuff. No pun intended. But yeah, no. My point is, like, there's no way they speak to NFL media the way they speak to MMA media. because they wouldn't be fucking employed. Like, you will get fines and shit if you speak like that to media, right? As a manager.
No, the NFL doesn't fuck around as far as just how.
Like, you not only just lose access, but like you get fines and shit if you speak to media like that, because media with most major leagues like MLB or NFL, there's a very strict set of guidelines to how you can deal with media.
Some homework for any listeners who are big NFL fans. Go ahead and try to find an example where someone's manager talks shit to say
another player,
where they talk shit to ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter or fucking NFL insider Ian Rappaport. There's no way. I guarantee you won't find a single fucking instance.
And those are dudes doing hard reporting that make people upset.
And they're legit journalists. They're doing real reporting. Everything. They always have
like the kind of journalism that doesn't make friends is what they're doing, right?
Yes, they don't give a fuck. They don't have friends. They don't talk to anyone else. They're literally doing their job. They got their nose to the fucking, to the grind. They're just doing their fucking literally. That's what it is. Like, sure, at the side they'll say some stuff like, "Oh, I think this is gonna look really dope for this team," but they're not still showing any favoritism. Like what I saw today, it said like, and I hate the Chargers by the way because they left. Fuck them. But I remember.
All do. But to be fair, I hated them before they left. So.
Yeah. I mean, I hated them too a little bit. Let me down.
You mean unlike all the other San Diego sports?
Yeah, right. Padres, they clinging on to hope, right?
Hey, to be fair, we've had the best chance ever at winning a season with the dude on the Twitch streams, right?
Bruno Tatis is a goddamn superstar. He actually, I think, plays tonight around 6, so in about an hour. So I'll have to check out his highlights at the end on Twitch. But no, that kid's hilarious.
The greatest run San Diego will ever have. It's not going to be on Twitch.
See, if the commissioner has any say in it, the Padres have a legit chance at the playoffs because they're going to add 4 more teams to the playoffs. So, hey, we got a really good shot.
Hey. And it's all right. We'll fuck it up when it gets to the important games.
Yeah, right. Anyways, what was I fucking getting at? San Diego sports, something cling on to hope. Oh, yeah, Ian Rappaport said, he's like, oh, the Chargers are going to unveil their new jersey soon and believe the hype. They look fabulous. That's the point. Like, he's not showing favoritism towards anything. He's just saying,
He's like, hey, it looks dope.
Offhand, that's cool. Yeah. That's
Which
it.
Is like, so, and also, like, yeah. Well, and also...
Like, if he said, as a Chargers fan, these look great. Okay, there's a problem.
Well, yeah. Well... I mean, it depends on how it's phrased. And also, Twitter is kind of a tough vehicle for that. But it's just so weird to me that constantly in MMA, we see managers and promoters and athletes shouting down journalists, which does not happen in any other fucking sport, including America's pastime or America's new pastime. Yeah, and there's a reason why. It's because
we could talk about this in other parts.
My point is, everybody's signing your motherfucking Project Spearhead cards already. God damn it! If you had a union, none of this shit would be happening. But you don't, because you can't at all get along.
Where's that NoFX song? They called it a union, right?
Oh my god! I was thinking more of a fucking. I don't know, any Bush era.
Jimmy Hoffa!
Yeah, there you go. I was thinking more along the lines of we put gasoline on the fire, now we have stumps for arms and no legs. But I get where you're coming from.
That too.
Jesus Christ. Well, that's a great segue into what is my can't miss episode in your catch for this week, which is Heavy Hands, episode 312. Jordan Breen was on, and if you're going to tell me, number one, Heavy Hands is doing a commentary episode for fights, already a fan. If you're gonna tell me number 2, you get Jordan Breen on there, that's can't miss material without even getting to it. And it absolutely was. Chris, do you have much experience with Jordan Breen content?
Yeah, but I always forget
from between rounds, right? Or Sherdog?
Yeah, it's mostly Sherdog.
But you said you liked this one quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I know. What did Jordan say? He said, "Is MMA nothing but watching Muppets on acid?"
Yeah, there's a lot of very quality Jordan Breen quotes in here. Muppets on acid. They talk about Phil getting his Twitter handle actually from a Jordan Breen post-fight chat. Man, Breen just spits a lot of fire in this episode in general.
So my favorite thing I wrote in, he said, yeah, did you guys hear Jake Ellenberger has a sweet gig with Lorenzo Fertitta? And I remember you mentioned this a couple weeks back as his personal security detail. He's like, essentially, I think Phil said this, if he started getting swung on at a pizza parlor, he still might get slept. And I think Jordan said he's the toughest guy in the Nebraska mob, though. So we'll give him.
Right. There's a lot of those kind of like triple layered jokes. Breen makes parfaits out of jokes. There is some layers to all that shit. To be fair, Breen, I should go ahead and off the top say Jordan Breen is maybe one of my favorite people in MMA. He's one of my favorite podcast hosts in MMA. Him and Fernanda Praches are like the two people who, or Fernanda Praches, are the two people who I am the most upset that they don't have a weekly MMA show right now. Because they are just, like, Jordan Breen has a lot of characteristics that I associate with and can fuck with. And it's not just his sweet-ass punk music references. But that dude has all... if I had the kind of memory and recollection that Jordan Breen had, I would be able to remember things. But I guess for lack of a better phrase, like... I don't know, Jordan Breen always makes the reference that I wish I would have thought of, you know what I mean?
I can see that.
Like, he's one of those dudes where he has the perfect reference for everything, every single time. And it's also kind of what makes it, if you want just like a linear conversation, Jordan Breen is absolutely not the dude. Like, if you want just like to not jump around to 14 different points, it's probably not the guest for that. But if you want to have every single reference slammed into a podcast with all of the best analogies, he's probably the one and only dude to do that kind of content.
Yeah.
And also just like weird facts, like I think Connor said multiple times throughout this episode that Breen is just the king of knowing esoteric facts and throwing them in about esoteric things in MMA, which is already esoteric.
Yeah, he threw that word around a lot.
For sure. I think the two fights that they actually covered, the one thing I am a little bummed out about is they evidently recorded a thing for a recorded commentary for GSP versus Karo Parisian.
Yep.
Which, if you guys have ever listened to anything Jordan Breen's ever done, you know that Jordan Breen the entire time is clowning Joe Rogan for thinking Caro's going to win that fight up until the last 10 seconds and then finally realizing, like,
I've actually
I don't
heard
think
that.
he has that.
I've heard that, but I think it was another podcast that mentioned that same
it might have been an old Collapsed MMA that we listened to, I want to say.
I remember a couple of things they were talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov's UFC debut, and I apologize.
Yeah. So that's the other fight here I got you is Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Kamal Shalarus.
That's right, yeah. They said, how strong is Khabib squeeze? Holy shit, he like basically rear naked choked a guy with one arm, and they compared him with Demian Maia.
Yeah, I believe also Jordan Breen during that fight said that the only way that Khabib versus Tebow would be on the most violent fight list is if you imagine it in the era of Corona, because they're just hugging against the cage the whole time.
And he said, given the predilections of Abel Trujillo and what's going on with him now, he said Khabib should have pile driven that piece of shit through the canvas. Like,
yeah. That's also, I'd like to anoint Jordan Breen as one of the voices in MMA that have constantly been like a dude dunking on Lloyd Irvin and being an outward voice, or an outspoken voice rather, for a lot of fucked up occurrences. Because he's one of the early dudes who was just saying like, fuck this guy. Like, and that's why Jordan Breen does not have a lot of friends in the darker side. Like, not a lot of Team Lloyd Irvin guys coming on any kind of Jordan Breen content. And like, there's a lot of managers still mad at TJ DeSantis just because he produced Jordan Breen's podcast. So I love voices like that, man. If you're reporting and you're making people upset, you're probably doing a good job. Like, that's a general rule of thumb in journalism, right?
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I was,
like,
I remember in school, I was given examples of journalists that pissed people the fuck off because they were doing the right thing and they just made certain folk uncomfortable. to hear that.
And honestly, those folk need to hear that shit. That's why it makes them uncomfortable. It's because that's what they're avoiding, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I am a blowhard about all this shit, and I like to be like a fucking contrarian asshole about everything all the time. As Chris knows, Chris will attest to this. I'm a contrarian asshole about most things. But yeah, I don't know.
Hey, but see, you're not a contrarian asshole when it comes to most things, and I agree with you, or I like whatever the fuck you're suggesting, and I'm like, okay, and I guess we're both contrarian assholes. Right. Or then it's just mutual.
Exactly. Right? I just like loud. Cool. I like loud voices that don't have an overhead. Like somebody that's just talking because they want to talk. That's why, like, all the independent media, I always give way more credit to, because there's no one telling them to do what they're doing except for them. So, like, if they have alternative motives, that's a weird thing to do. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if I went like this? I would go. This is just an example. All right, and my new podcast. But before I get to that, brought to you by some shitty mobile game that you should totally download. Right? You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah. Well, not even that. My favorite is like. Well, listen. We had a great interview with this manager in the sport. Because managers are relevant and they actually speak truths and have relevant things to say. So let's talk to them so that I can keep talking to their clients. And let's all pretend like all these hard questions that I'm asking them I didn't send to them beforehand so that they could think of answers.
Yeah, but
okay. Hi, Ollie Abdelaziz. How you doing?
No, you know what I was about to say? I swear to God, I was literally going to go, hi, I'm Manager Robert. Yeah, we got Robert on the line here. What do you got to say? You know, thanks for being here with us, Robert. Ali? No, your name's Robert. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, and Justin's coming on next week. Okay, thank you, Robert.
Oh, weird coincidence that you were able to get Justin Gaethje after you got Robert on.
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
Yeah, man, it's makes me sad, honestly, because there's like some journalists who I really like, who we've talked about, who said very good things about. That still do that, and it's a conflicting feeling, right? Like it's hard as someone who covers podcasts to decide what, like, at a certain point, am I doing a disjustice by even mentioning this show? You know?
Yeah.
Especially once you just consistently give outlets to, I won't even say bad people, I'll say bad actors in the sport. So, I don't know. But also, I'm a contrarian, pessimistic fuck who is mad about everything and wants the world to burn.
Just call it par for the course. You're just kind of keeping things even keel, right?
I believe we're technically MMA media since we've been blocked by both a manager and a fighter. So,
hey!
And one of which we didn't even talk about until after he blocked us, so... Shouts out to Jason House. Hey, maybe you don't take 20% of your clients' money. That's
if we want to be unprofessional, like, hey, so we're MMA Media. We can flex some journalistic muscles here if we want. We could start writing some shit to piss some more people off. Like, don't get me wrong. Not that you have to tell me to do something. I'm not going to do it because I want to just keep what we're doing as we're doing it now. But I want to. I can just write some shit, and piss a lot of people off. We could tweet it out.
Oh, you mean real journalism?
Yeah. I mean, I can do it, and you know what? Sure, could it help us in a lot of aspects? Yeah, but it also could be like everyone the next day, fuck the sound of violence,
Yeah, but like I like to watch the world burn. Number one, but number two, we have
way more
success, Chris. What if we just tweeted to every manager, telling them how great they are and asking for any clients they want to get promotion for? And then what if we were to tell them we'll even do posters and promote their next fight? And what if we were to tell them that, hey, if you guys ever do an event where you just have all your fighters show up, we'll absolutely cover that, even if we're not even there locally. We'll just write an article about it. What if we did that? Because I feel like that's how MMA media.
Baby, let's go. Right?
Yeah. You want to get, Chris, here's the question. You want to be a journalist or you want to get paid, motherfucker?
Get that bread, baby.
That's right. Hey, there's only one way to make bread, and it's with shit you buy from the store. So, why don't we get paid, and then we'll just fucking
like someone goes, I buy my sources. I find my sources.
No, we'll just drink ourselves to death every night to make up for the fucking sadness inside.
All right. Well, here, let's keep this moving because holy fuck, we're like rambling.
Yeah, no, I've gone way off the rails.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway,
Okay.
The last thing I had to mention was Between Rounds did a watch along for UFC 52, which was fucking incredible. I really liked it. I mean, it's TJ DeSantis, Nick Albert, and motherfucker, why can I not think of dude's name? Oh my god, I know exactly who it is. Let me look this up. Man, I love that when I type Between Rounds in the internet, it still thinks I want to look at the fucking bakery and not the people I follow on Patreon. Awesome. So Between Rounds, it's Rob Tatum. It's Rob Tatum and what's his face? Who I just mentioned. God damn it, I'm completely off the rails now. It's Rob Tatum and TJ DeSantis and Nick Albert. It's really good. They watch UFC 52. If you guys have not seen UFC 52, I mean, it's a good ass card. So definitely worth checking out. A lot of cool, funny references. Since both actually all three of them, TJ, Rob Tatum, and Nick Albert were all pretty involved in the game at that point. Nick was a Team Quest dude, and I believe, like, I know he trained with Mayhem at least a little bit, because Mayhem and Dan Henderson for a while were training together at Team Quest, if I remember right. So yeah, just a really fun episode, and I highly recommend it, because again, all of my favorite shows lately have been watch alongs, so definitely recommend checking that out. Chris, you said you listened to a new show, right?
Yeah, I listened to the Drag and Fist podcast with host Derek Green.
Ooh, that sounds good. It doesn't sound as good as the Snap and Drag podcast, but unfortunately, Joel hasn't put that out yet.
Oh, God damn it, that's right. Brother Sin was not on this episode.
That podcast is dead, by the way.
Current
whatever it is, 82 to 91 or whatever.
Fuck that. No, don't even remind me. Current UFC bantamweight Kyler Matrix Phillips is on the show.
Interesting.
Derek Green talks about I don't know if he grew up in Torrance. I think he grew up. Fuck, what did he say?
Shouts LA.
He's been living in Torrance. He's married to his wife that he met in DC, who's from Peru. It was I was trying to kind of listen to stuff.
He's on some Luke Thomas shit?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. The guy's really laid back. He talked to Kyler, who's a current UFC bantamweight. Kyler says he would love to fight on Fight Island because he loves Mortal Kombat. I mean, it's like...
I've heard almost every fighter say almost that exact thing.
Kyler, if you don't know, Kyler Phillips was on The Ultimate Fighter Undefeated. What was that, season 20?
It was one of the more recent ones. Because he was on the same season with, like... was Kai Asakura on that season? No.
He was the flyweight season 24.
It was like around there though, right?
I think it was season 27 was undefeated. I think it was with Stipe Miocic, and Daniel Cormier.
Right.
Yes.
You're way better at tough recollection than me.
Kyler decided at age 12 he wanted to pursue a career in MMA, but also helped. He said his dad was a martial artist who specialized in Taekwondo, and he traveled the world in doing tournaments. Like if my dad was fighting people all over the world, I'd probably want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't really write too many notes down. I was just kind of more listening to this. I like Derek's approach. He's kind of like a Luke Thomas in that his wasn't more so on he's down to the nitty gritty of, I guess, kind of questioning, right? The motives of the UFC or the upper brass, right? Or say going into the medical professional thing. He was kind of more into how is the stay-at-home mandate COVID affecting him? How is it affecting other fighters? How is it affecting Kyler, who's talking to? And it was a good listen. What I like too is Kyler Phillips was really talking about the mindset and how he trains and how his coaches train him and how he adapts to what his coaches tell him. He talks about different fighting styles, the fighting styles that he adapted, and just his training and what he is currently kind of learning. You know, he says he's always down to learn newer things. I think he says he specializes mostly in Taekwondo because that's what dad is. I think he said in kickboxing and boxing, but he's been doing a lot of wrestling and grappling training in his camps.
Well, you figure, he's mostly striking based.
Yeah, lots of wholesome discussion about like home life, pet turtles. They both have reptiles, that kind of
Fuck
shit.
yeah, dude! Shouts out to turtles. I got a tortoise. That's pretty tight.
I had a box turtle when I was a teenager. I remember it got lost or got stolen. I can't remember.
Box turtles are weird. You met George, right? The tortoise in my place.
No, I haven't met him in person. I've seen lots of pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a goofy dude. He is. He actually a lot of times if we leave the door open, just wander inside and come hang out, chase the dogs around.
I imagine if you had a pet cat, the cat would like take a ride on top of the tortoise.
Dude, that tortoise loves dogs, and my dogs are terrified of that tortoise. They both just get giant eyes and terrified because he just stalks Tilly, at him. Right? Well, no, actually, Seamus gets more freaked out. Tilly just barks at him, but he usually he loves dogs. He grew up around dogs, so he walks at him, and they both just get giant fucking eyes and freak out. And then Seamus just like freezes and doesn't know what to do with himself, and then eventually I have to come over and be like, "All right, let me pick Seamus up so that he doesn't fucking snap the turtle."
That's pretty funny.
Or tortoise, I should say. But yeah, George is the homie.
And then the last couple weeks I had is Derek Green talked about it was his co-host who wasn't available. Apparently his co-host dealing with some personal and actual work issues.
Everybody right now, right?
Yeah, so he hasn't been available on the show for a good while, but he said, yeah, we came up with the name Dragon Fist because like my co-host was really big into drag racing, and he's like from the Midwest.
Oh, weird.
He's like, well, guess what? I like mixed martial arts. He's like, well, I also like mixed martial arts, so it's like, fuck it, we'll call it Dragon Fist.
Huh.
Or something like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and he said originally when they first started, they would talk about in the first half drag racing, and then they would talk about mixed martial arts.
Oh, that makes way more sense for the name.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I may have to check that show out. That sounds fun. Did you find that on Listen Notes?
Yes, I did.
Dude, that is like the place to catch new shows, right?
Oh, it is 100%. I love listening.
You keep bringing shows that I've literally never even heard of.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff I get is off Twitter or off of MMApodcast.com, which I should shout that out more often. But MMApodcast.com.
I still use MMApodcast.com.
Is like
and then
one of the best of all time, and the dude who works on that is super sweet. Like I've talked to him much times.
I've watched drag racing before, like whether it's reruns of ESPN or on cable. My racing fandom, right, or my knowledge of racing either comes from fucking Forza Motorsport and like building cars or something like that, or I used to watch NASCAR when I used to work in El Cajon, but I kind of come to that.
That checks out. By the way, I love that you tagged that with while I used to work in El Cajon, because that really, anybody who has ever lived in San Diego knows exactly why you would tag it with that.
Well, and anyone who knows who the fuck is from El Cajon and who's one of the best NASCAR drivers ever, I know that pisses off the South, but I think it's hilarious. That's why I'll always say that. He's one of the GOAT race car drivers. Patrick? Jimmy Johnson. But yes.
Wait, Jimmy John?
Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, I thought it was the dude who made
See, if I wanted to be honest about Danica Patrick, I can give you some just straight up stats that would be like, well, she tried. But you know what? I'm not going to be that much with it.
More like Danica Patrick, am I right?
Well, or in South Park, they just killed her off. Cartman just runs her over, but...
they don't have a record of killing people off.
Yeah. But then again, Cartman was sponsored by Vagisil, so take that as you will.
I'm going to take that.
Take it for face value. It's South Park. They don't...
open face values. I'm going to take that. Joey Diaz was in basketball. I'll just... That's how I feel about it.
Wait, he was?
Yes. He was a main character. God damn it.
Oh, wait. I know. Oh, he was on Team Miami, right?
Yeah. The fuck.
I gotta look that up right now. I'm sorry. That sounds hilarious. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Chris.
Oh, shit.
Fuck out of here eating blue cheese and wings and shit.
Your sister was hanging out with Squeak.
The fuck you doing, Chris? Hey, dog. I got this edible for you.
Stars of Death, dog.
Dog. Stars of Death. Stars of Death ain't shit compared to this.
Oh, he played a ref. That's right.
You've been taking capsules because you about to cocksucker.
All right, dude, we should get moved on. We're like fucking 9-minute dinner. Jesus Christ.
Babbling at this point. I did listen to Coast to Coast, since I figure if I'm going to talk shit about it, I have to actually listen to it, which is the badly named show that is previously known as Java Boys. I'm forever going to call this show Java Boys for the record. So Java Boys did a UFC 249 canceled episode. It's like the most milquetoast shit of all time. Especially considering Brendan Schaub the entire time has been on the side of, hey, let's put out a UFC 249 should have totally happened, bro. It's crazy that it didn't happen, bro. Just because Disney hates the UFC, bro. It's a lot of that. And then that's what he's actually been saying. But then when him and Luke Thomas has been saying literally the exact opposite. But then when they get together, neither one of them actually voices an opinion, and they both just go super neutral and talk about how, have you put on the quarantine 10, bro? Because that's what we're all calling it, is the quarantine 10. Yeah, it's fucking... It's just the most milquetoast bullshit of all time. Like, it would have been such more interesting content if they would have actually had a conversation about how they disagree. But they both just agreed, because I don't know if you've seen the recent clip of Brendan Schaub on Rogan's podcast, but it's just Rogan saying, this is a thing, and Brendan saying, this is the most thing, over and over and over again in the same episode. It's kind of like that, where you're just like, oh, I know you guys diametrically disagree, and then you just don't talk about it. Instead, you just kind of have non-conversations about UFC Island. So that's frustrating.
Here,
let's see. Would you have some honorable mentions, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna breeze through these real quick.
Yep, we both will.
Revisited Die Hard MMA with Clint McLean.
Oh yeah, I subbed to that.
Dana talked about he's targeting May 9th. That's not going to happen, but we'll see.
It might, depending on how fucked up Vegas is. If Vegas is 50% of Florida, we're fucked.
That's true. Clint talks about he's a big bettor. He loves the betting line for Gaethje now that he has longer preparation for Tony Ferguson, and the fact that Tony Ferguson just cut a shitload of weight for no fucking reason is compromising his immune system. But that's another story.
One of the dumbest things I've ever seen in sports.
I don't know why he did that.
I know exactly why he did it. Is to try and get an extra paycheck.
Yeah.
Which he's not going to get, which is the saddest part about it.
Well, anyways, he loves Cejudo versus Cruz. He's like, everyone's calling out Cejudo. He said, please sit down, Frankie Edgar, in the most respectful way possible. He says, yes, it's kind of crazy that Cruz hasn't fought in 4 years, but it also means a lot of new fans the last 4 years literally either A, they don't know who Cruz is, which is terrifying, or they just don't realize how good his fight IQ is in movement. He said that should be a banger of a fight. Initially, I agree with that, but I also, if you told me who's going to win that fight, I would lean Henry Cejudo at this point. But then again, he's coming off of injury, so who fucking knows? I have no idea what's going on with that fight.
I feel the same way.
Maybe I pick Cruz at this point. I have no clue. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me because last time Cruz fought someone way smaller than him, he suplexed him. Sorry, DJ. Anyways.
Yeah, Henry's not that much smaller. Like DJ is, because Henry had trouble at 125. DJ never really had trouble. DJ walked at like 140.
And when Cruz fought DJ, it's when DJ was still in construction as well. Not taking anything away from Cruz, still a great.
No, but like full like day job. DJ.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
DJ literally said after that fight he quit that job and started training full time. So.
But yeah, Clint had a great breakdown of all the contenders at bantamweight. This is kind of like a bantamweight episode.
Man, I'm gonna have to listen to this episode because it sounds really good.
Dan Hardy is teasing a comeback tour again. I think he wanted. I know Mickey Gall like a year ago called him out, and I don't fucking know what's going on with that. He says most importantly, where does TJ Dillashaw into all this? He says he's about, well, now I think it's like 8 or 9 months left on his suspension. He says, I will give credit to TJ. He's taken a lot of responsibility for his cheating, and he owned up to it. I mean, yeah.
Yes and no. He also seems to think he's going to get a title shot when he comes back.
It's yes and no, yeah. So. Moving on to the honorable mention, Believe You Me, didn't really have too many notes, except for it was more on the...
Which one?
215.
I don't know if I have written down the number, but yeah, I think 215 was a recent one, right?
It was a lot about video game talk, and Michael basically says he's playing video games for the first time in like 20, 25 years.
Oh, okay, this was the one earlier in the week then.
Yeah, I think it was the Monday one.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Wait, what is he playing?
So Lewis has been playing a lot of Fortnite. That's his main thing, but lately he's been playing Doom Eternal.
Doom, yeah, that game.
I have Doom. I have the first one on Game Pass. I haven't played it yet, though.
What? You haven't played it yet?
No.
Holy shit,
I'm
dude.
thinking of playing it on easy or normal so I can just kind of feel like a
normal.
badass. It just
go normal, you'll fucking blow through it and have a great time.
That's just what I want to do. I like because like I like FPSs, but I don't want to be like dude. There's a reason why I never beat that one Star Wars game because I'm playing on the hardest difficulty, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I could beat this boss.
Nah, Doom. The way that specifically the first Doom game is set up is it's so flowy that if you just play normal, you're gonna have a great fucking time just blowing through stuff because it's built for constant action. Like there's no downtime in that game.
They brought up Doom Eternal because Michael evidently got Doom Eternal from a friend for free, and he says he loves it. He's like, I haven't played a game in so long. He said this game blew my mind. He's like, the graphics are insane. He's like, I was showing my kids, and he was like, this is
laughing
nuts.
At him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he was like saying, he's like, yeah, my youngest son Lucas. I'm like, sorry, Lucas, I can't be chainsawing demons in half while you right here, but you know.
I don't know. Lucas seems like the kind of dude who would chainsaw demons in half.
Well, speaking of younger sons, Lewis says he's toughing up his son. He's like, yeah, my son's kind of a pussy, so I just told him, you know what, you can play Doom. And he's like, yeah, it's great. He's like, and you know what, you can also. He's like, I also was playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and my son was playing. I said, hey son, why don't you go shoot that guy's horse? And he said his son shot a horse in the head, and then his son also started shooting people's dogs in the head.
That's bad. What? Right. Whoa!
And then Michael's like, whoa, doggy. He's like, you can't have your little son doing that.
First
He's like,
off,
but
you can't yell whoa, doggy at a fucking kid who just shot a bunch of dogs in the head. That's the wrong message.
We were saying that to Lewis, but he was just saying.
I know, but honestly.
Yeah. But you know, he's just saying like, dude, you can't have your son like doing some fucked up shit like that. Like he's like 8 years old. Like, damn. But you know, the most important part is the episode had a very good interview with Marlon Chito Vera. I remember Michael talked about a funny incident really, actually, where he was talking to Davey Grant, and he didn't realize Marlon Vera was maybe about 10 feet away from him. And Davey Grant's like, yeah, man, how do you think I'm gonna do? I'm fighting this guy, Marlon Vera. And Michael's like, oh, you're gonna fuck him up. You'll be fine. And like Marlon heard that, and he went up to him and said, hey, man, what the fuck? And they were just kind of talking about that, how they remember that.
To be fair, Davey Grant, very British.
Yeah.
And also, Davey Grant looked real good in his last fight, if I remember right. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else. Didn't he look incredible in his last fight?
I believe so.
Unless I'm thinking about another British dude. But yeah, no, that's super funny, man.
And then I'll just finish real quick if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It was my can't miss.
Yeah. You know what? Davey Grant, motherfucking split decision Gregory Popov after almost catching him early is what it was. I remember, of course, I picked Popov because, duh. But yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, where was I? My can't miss.
Yep. Your other.
My can't miss.
Oh, you have a can't miss? What the fuck, bro? What order are we going in, Chris?
I don't know, but I'll just say it right now. Okay. It was Submission Radio. John Morgan was back.
Oh, so I didn't catch this one. Do you have an episode number?
Let me find it right now.
I can look it up. Keep talking.
He made a lot of really good points. Just about how Dana White, at this point, he needs to just kind of swallow his pride and kind of follow protocol and heed advice to medical professionals.
Yeah.
It's getting out of hand. The one I listened to.
Oh, you know what? This was not a full episode.
It was 30 minutes long.
Interview with John Morgan that they did.
Oh, it was 19 minutes long. It was from Tuesday. It's called Breaking, UFC returning on May 9th. I listened to this on Spotify.
Yeah. And it looks like it's like not a full episode.
Not a full episode. Yeah, it's about 20 minutes long. It's just the interview with John Morgan. So
that's interesting.
Excuse me for that distinction.
No, it's all good. I just want to make sure people can catch the right one.
So that was my can't miss.
And they've been doing some really good. I mean, we both know we love the guys at Submission Radio. They do great content, and also they're sweethearts too. Like they've been.
Yeah, Casper and Dennis are great.
Well. Yeah, well, and they're just funny as fuck to be honest. Like there are easy top 5 people I want to have a beer with in MMA. It's Kenneth and Dasper. Wow, I said Kenneth and Dasper. Okay, well, evidently this beer's working over here. Dennis and Casper.
And then, lastly, should I just say the last thing I listened to? And then
sure, you have an honorable mention?
Yeah, it was a new show. At least I've never listened to this. It was by MMA Fighting What the Heck with Mike Heck.
Oh, dude, so you know Mike the Heck. You know Mike Heck from, he used to be the moderator on Between the Links.
Okay, that's where I recognize that.
So he recently signed with MMA Fighting, and so that's why you recognize his voice. Yeah, What the Heck with Mike Heck is great. This was episode 3, if I remember right.
Yeah, Chase Hooper was the guest.
Yeah. There's a couple guests, I believe, but yeah, I think they broke them up.
That's the one I listened to.
Yeah.
He essentially talked about he was supposed to be on the fight card in San Diego. And yeah, this kid, he's like, what, 21?
Dude, Chase Hooper screams San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Like, that dude would fit in perfectly at Claremont High, or like fucking, I could easily see Chase Hooper hanging out at the beach, or like at PB, you know what I mean? Like, that, he is absolutely a San Diego kid, if there ever was one. I guess because he's also training in, is he training with O'Malley in Arizona? Where's he training at?
I believe he's with O'Malley in Arizona.
Is he? I think, or are we just associating that because of their hair?
Probably because their hair in their weight class, but
I thought he was in Arizona, but I'm not sure he was. Oh god, I went to the UFC website instead of fucking a useful website. Why would I do that? Oh my god, how fucking far do I have to go to get to Tapology? Let's see.
Oh, he's only 20 years old. Yeah.
I could have sworn he's from Arizona, right? No, Washington. Okay, well, also checks out, to be fair. Yeah, no, he also screams Washington, if I'm being honest. But yeah, man, I like that kid a lot. And Mike Heck is a great interviewer. He's fantastic. Like Mike Heck, they're clearly, or at least they were clearly situating Mike Heck as like the new interview show that they're setting up, right? Because, you know, they went from Ariel to Luke to, they were looking for somebody to fill that. They honestly, like, the show that Jose Youngs and PT and everybody does, it's never been that same style interview show where you bank up 3 or 4 interviews and you bang them out and put them out. At least not, like, video-wise. I know Eurobash is a little bit more along those lines, but even still not quite it. And it feels like they're lining up Mike Heck to be the next guy, and I fucking love it because I'm a big Mike Heck fan. And also, the interviews have been really good, right?
Yeah. No, it was well put together. It was coordinated. I thought it was solid.
Yeah, he seems like a dude who can absolutely carry that torch. One thing also that I should mention this week. Have you heard Luke Thomas mention that people have been getting furloughed and aren't talking about it?
What do you mean?
In MMA media, Luke Thomas brought up a couple times this week, or within the last week or two, that people are getting furloughed in MMA media and they're not bringing it up vocally. You know, furloughed, for those who don't know, is like essentially suspended without pay kind of thing.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And Luke Thomas has been bringing that up. He hasn't brought up any names, obviously, because he's not trying to out people. But John Morgan came out on his podcast this week, the MMA Roadshow, and said, hey, I was furloughed last week. I'm back on right now because the UFC is putting on cards again as of right now. So John Morgan is back off of furlough for this week at least until the card happens. But if John Morgan at MMA Junkie is getting furloughed, you can assume a lot of people are. And not just that. Vox Media said they're cutting 9% of their independent contractor workforce. Which Vox Media, if you guys don't know, own Bloody Elbow, MMA, what's the MMA Mania, I think is the name of it. Couple different outlets. So we might start seeing a real drastic change in media. As of right now, I'm not that concerned about Bloody Elbow. Considering, number one, they just started a new show, I believe. They just picked up Trent Rhinesmith's show, actually, which is pretty cool. Chris, have you been listening to any of Trent Rhinesmith's show? Come on now.
No, I have not, but I got to check it out.
I believe they just picked it up for their feed, and what they're going to do is they're going to start doing like a for lack of a better word, like a compilation episode each week where they cut together clips of all of his shows that he's doing daily, and they kind of put that out as a compilation. At least from the tweet, that's what it sounds like. I haven't heard it yet. That'll be on our list next week, guaranteed. But I'm curious to see it, because they are an outlet who always gives voice to small media and who are not afraid, especially since they're one of the media outlets that are just fucking blacklisted by the UFC because they speak truths. It's gonna be interesting to see kind of how they handle things going forward, because I feel like they're one of the ones I'm less worried about. I'm very worried about MMA Junkie. If John Morgan's getting furloughed, everybody's getting furloughed at MMA Junkie. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And then also kind of outlets that are somewhat tied to that or something to keep an eye on. But anyway, I'm just going to rattle off a handful of honorable mentions for me. Fights Gone By. Jack Slack did an episode catching up on Jeff Neal, which was really good. I'm not sure if you caught that, but it was super, super good. Real quick with Mike Swick, he's doing his quarantine episodes. He did episode 3 with Rampage Jackson, which is I really, really liked. Here's some facts that you don't really hear about a lot of times, like just kind of some of the info that Rampage dropped is kind of wild. I mean, and I'm not just saying that Rashad Evans told him that to look out for 5G and that you should go look into crystals. I'm talking about other stuff. The Man and the Myth for April 15th, 2020, I really enjoyed as well. That was the one where they essentially they took the entire lightweight division across all promotions and did a giant draft where you pick any lightweights you want from any organization, and you get one legend pick. Like you can get, for example, like Motivated BJ Penn, something like that. But they essentially did a 5-team draft for the entire lightweight division to see who can come up with the best organization out of those 5 fights, which is pretty cool. RIP to producer Chris, who I'm a giant fan of, and also who definitely lost that. TSN MMA show episode 137 was really good. Interviews with Charles Jourdain, Patrick Cote, John Anik, and Brendan Fitzgerald. MMA on the Rocks episode 185 I really liked a lot as well. Some great stories from Bill Welker and Jeff the Animal Wilson about drinking, ice cream, and bee stories. Those are all separate things. I wanted to make sure to emphasize the comma between drinking and ice cream. But there's some good stories in there. And there's also a bunch of really good recommendations for movies and stuff like that. For example, Bill Welker brought up the Lee Kemp documentary, who was a famous wrestler that had a bunch of hardships. And it's supposed to be a crazy story based on his description. So I'm definitely going to check that out. Anik and Florian, episode 246, I really liked a lot. Did you catch this?
I did not. Actually, I haven't listened to them in a good while, to be honest.
I've really been liking their show a lot. So previously, Mike Heck was their video guy, because TJ Sanchez is their producer, but Mike Heck was their video guy. And recently, since Mike Heck left the show and has been working with MMA Fighting, our boy Cody from the Aljamain Sterling podcast, Weekly Scraps. Cody, why can't I think of Cody's last name? I've been talking to Cody for a while. Big fan of Cody. Let me look up our Twitter account. Cody Merrow. Didn't even get to Twitter before I remembered. Cody Merrow is now the dude working a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff for that show. And, man, it's been a lot of fun. The combo of that and Ian the Duck Parker coming out as a fucking fan favorite, it's been really fun lately. So they had Brian Stan on the episode. He Skyped in, which was a lot of fun. They had Longo call in, who, by the way, Longo this week evidently had a tree fall on his house.
Wait, what?
Yeah, in the middle of all this, he had a giant tree fall on his house about 5 feet away from where he was sitting.
Jesus.
Yeah, Longo was Longo evidently almost didn't make it. It was so fucking close to where he was at, so pretty wild. And then, of course, Ian the Duck Parker holding it down on Skype. But also, it should be noted, it's a good episode if John Anik is drinking at 1:40 in the afternoon in Florida, which he was. I was listening to the episode, I was like, I didn't clink a glass with ice, and I don't see any glasses around with ice. I wonder where that sound came from. Turns out it was John Anik picking up his drink that he was sipping on at 1:40 in the afternoon, which Ian Parker shouted out. So big shouts to that. That's hilarious. Co-main event podcast, episode 397 was super solid. Really enjoyed that. A lot of talk about 249 getting canceled and Fight Island being ridiculous. Eurobash episode 78, which had PC interviewed Valentina. There's an interview with Sean O'Malley. There's an interview with Graham Boylan, the promoter for Cage Warriors. And let's see. Oh, Sherdog did a really good episode. Or Sherdog, Jesus Christ. I guess technically Between Rounds did a really good episode of Behind the Paywall. Which is the first one in over a month. Catching up with Jeff Sherwood, who of course broke the news about Tachi Palace stuff. So there's a lot of talk about that. He also mentions, Chris, as a journalist, I'd like your opinion on these two things. Jeff Sherwood, as you know, broke the location of UFC 249. He was the one that tweeted out it's going to happen in Tachi Palace. He lives in Lemoore. Obviously, he has connections to the community. If a fight's going to happen at Tachi Palace while it's closed, you know Jeff Sherwood's going to know about it. Here's my question for you. First off, I'd like to get your reaction. So, Brett Okamoto spoke to Jeff Sherwood because, of course, he needs to, right? If he's going to report on the story. Right?
Yeah.
So, Brett Okamoto asked this question. I want your reaction to it. He asked Jeff Sherwood why he released the location of the fight card.
Like, why is that an issue? Or is he asking it like it's an issue? Or is he just kind of...
That's my question, is why would he ask that question?
Like, that doesn't even need to be asked. Why does anyone take issue with that?
Question? Yeah. If you were in his position, why would you be asking that question? Can you think of a way where it's justifiable? I've never heard anyone bring that up.
Objectively, you can't justify that, but to him, it's probably because his higher-ups told him, hey, find out why this motherfucker released that. It was supposed to be kept under wraps because our boys, the UFC, were supposed to fucking tell us this, not some other guy.
That's the only logical explanation, right? Like, there's no... As a journalist, I don't know what that gets you, because you're not going to include it in any story you write, because it's super hearsay and conjecture, right? So, like, and also it doesn't actually affect anything, knowing that information. So, like, why ask it? I just found that weird that he brought that up. Here's the second thing, and that's much more concerning to me. Hey, Chris, you know that small-time publication, the New York Times?
Yeah, totally small time.
Yeah. You know how they wrote the article about UFC 249 and how it's happening at an Indian reservation, and they quoted Jeff Sherwood?
Yeah.
What if I was to tell you they never actually spoke to him?
That would check out.
What if I was to tell you that they only reached out to him via DM and they didn't ask any questions about the actual story?
So did they quote him as saying, did they say we spoke to blah, 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 Jeff Sherwood? Or did they just say...
They quoted his tweet, is what they quoted. But if you are the New York Times and you did reach out... Well, actually, let me have you speak first.
I'll say this. As far as how that works, they're allowed to put, according to Jeff Sherwood, as long as they reached out to him.
Definitely.
And confirm that information.
They don't
even... Like, they can use it.
Right.
But if they said...
First off, I want to say, they basically just quoted his tweet, and they hit him up saying, like, hey, you're the dude who said this tweet, as far as I can tell. Which is that's all above board, right? Like, that's just like standard protocol, right?
Yeah, it's standard. As long as they said according to a source, or all they literally have to say is according to Jeff Sherwood from blah blah,
right, and then
they're fine. As long as they reach out to Jeff Sherwood and he tells them, "Hey, here's my source," and then they say, "Okay, can you confirm that source?" Yes, and then under an anonymous, closed conversation, right, with New York Times, he lets them know this is my source, and they go, "Okay," then they run with it.
Okay, so then what if the Jeff Sherwood, the guy who said all this, says they didn't ask him questions about the story when they reached out? They just reached out. They asked about, like, other stuff.
Then I would just, if
good,
it was someone
right?
asking me other stuff, I would just be like, why? How is this relevant?
Right. Well, no. I'm saying if you are the journalist, what are you doing? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
My question is like,
it's a non-relevant.
Yeah.
It's a non-relevant matter. I don't.
Well, and also just like, why would you not ask for specific details? Why would you not? I don't know. Do journalism? I guess is my question.
Yeah. It's cookie cutter bullshit.
It absolutely is. I wanted to bring up that, like, I know we show on MMA media a lot, but, like, clearly the New York Times is also not necessarily doing all their motherfucking research either, and not necessarily asking the right questions when they're reaching out to people. So I just find that really weird. And, like, you know, Sherwood's one of those guys who, like, since he's not a journalist by definition. I mean, he literally fell ass backwards into journalism by just being, like, a dude who took pictures and created a website. And he's the first to say, like, no, like, dudes like Josh Gross are journalists. He, like, reported some stuff sometimes, but it was mostly just because someone texted him and told him shit like, oh, by the way, have you looked into how Tony Ferguson is fucking melting down and losing his mind? And Jeff Sherwood puts a tweet out being like, people should maybe check on Tony Ferguson, and then it becomes a story. And that's kind of how this went too, but it's crazy that, like, arguably the most popular paper in the entire country when it comes to journalism, like, the New York Times has got to be, like, top 3 of the pinnacle of journalism, right?
Yeah, I'd say them and the Washington Post are up there.
Yeah, them and WAPO for sure. So, like, at that point, it's just insane to me that, like, people are reaching out and not asking fucking detailed questions.
No.
And, like, maybe it's just hearsay because of Sherwood, who knows? But, yeah, it's wild to me. Lastly, something totally non-fight related, but only semi-MMA related. Crooklyn's Corner episode 5, which is the one with Steffi Haynes and Vic Rodriguez. Steffi's starting a new series where she talks to MMA media members who can cook about what they're making. And so Vic Rodriguez just does a whole episode on how to make some comfort food from, I believe it's Dominican comfort food. And it's just good. It just made me feel good. It's just a fun time. Just was a fun thing. So I recommend it. Crooklyn's Corner, episode 5.
Nice.
And that's all I got. Chris, you ready to wrap this shit?
Oh, yeah. I gotta piss my pants.
You and I both. And then, are we recording the commentary today? Here's my question.
Let me find out. Give me like 10 minutes. I'll let you know. I gotta see what those guys.
While Chris and I check on everyone in the house that we're both at, which is separate houses, #quarantining. We do have a great movie that we're going to guarantee do a commentary for this week. And Chris, you did a little bit of research about this movie, which I'm going to hold up the literal physical DVD case I had to buy to make this happen because you cannot stream it. I bought the DVD for $6 on eBay for no rules, which here, according to the cover, it has David Dunn, Tom Sizemore, Randy Couture, Gary Busey, Philip Tan, Frank Shamrock, Deanne Bakhar, Pilar Lastra, and Anahit Minasyan. Chris, what was the little bit of research you did before we get out of here?
I went to IMDb and I was like, okay, who would direct such a thing? And it says the name was Jerry Anderson. I'm like, Jerry Anderson, who's that? And it said, ex-brother-in-law of Tommy Lee, Kid Rock. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, oh, shit.
Sorry, joining the mouth on what does ex-brother-in-law mean?
I'm like, this is Pamela Anderson's brother. Because she's in the movie.
Also, she's not even listed on the front, which is a bad sign if your brother-in-law directed a movie and you're not listed in it. Also, I'd like to also say, on the back cover, there's a 4-star review that's literally printed on it that says, No Rules is an exciting audience grabber with deeply layered, edge-of-your-seat action, mind-teasing suspense, simmering drama, and a pulse-pounding finale. And, oh boy, I feel like this is notoriously on the lowest scores for every single list of MMA movies that have ever existed. I've never seen lists that had this on the list that it wasn't the lowest one. Generally, it's right around Supreme. It's right below Supreme Champion or that like Fight Valley, that kind of level. And I'm so fucking excited. So either we'll record this directly after this, or we'll record it, I don't know, tomorrow or some other day. But Chris, anything you want to shout out before we get out of here? Since I know this has been a long episode.
I think that's it for me.
Well, on that note, go support your local breweries. Chris, please do a PSA for supporting your local breweries.
Your local breweries are struggling right now, regardless if they are larger than other microbreweries or even considered a nano brewery. At this time, some breweries...
And by local breweries, we don't mean if like Budweiser.
No. So I'm not going to call any breweries out because I'm not a snitch and I'm not an asshole. But there are some breweries out there that, let's just say, they literally can't afford to close down, unfortunately, because their business is they just can't do it. So please, any local craft brewery that you live by or in the vicinity of, support them in any way you can, whether that's stopping by to get a 6-pack to go, or even not even having, if you don't even stop by there, just buy their beer at your local liquor store. Sure, that's probably the easiest, most efficient way to do it.
Or grocery, yeah, like delivery. A lot of delivery services
anywhere
will have local beer. And if you're in California, excuse me, a lot of San Diego breweries are delivering anywhere in California. People from everywhere from Modern Times to AleSmith, a lot of breweries are delivering. So even if you're not in the San Diego area, if you want San Diego beer, there's never been a better time, right? Like, it's never been easier to get fresh San Diego beer. So if you're in California, please go support them. If not, go support your local brewery. Go support your local restaurants, man. Like, I always go with, like, my rule of thumb for restaurants right now is if I can count the number of people who work there, I will order from there. Kind of thing. Like, where it's like Balboa Tap House, or like small pizza places out here, or small burger places like Annie's, where you're like, they have like 5 to 10 employees, maybe max. Like, that's kind of places that need the most support. So go support everybody by you. Go spread the love. Don't give anybody hugs. Give them air hugs from across the street or whatever. And yeah, just go support the people around you, because we could all use it right now, right?
100%. So
cool, man. Well, is there anything else you want to tag on before we get out of here?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, until next time, everybody, go do something decadent. I will have more hair on my head next week, so that should be less uncomfortable for you. And we'll be back maybe today to do a commentary, maybe sometime down the week. We'll figure it out, but it'll come out Wednesday for you guys regardless. So check that out, and until next time, go do something decadent. We love you. We miss you. Stay safe, and go watch some old fights. They're good. Yeah. Hey.